Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to be talking about my team going forward, what I did this week, in game week 13. I'm recording this on the Monday before the Wolves Fulham game, but I don't have any players in that game, so I already know that I've got a red arrow. It's just how big of a red arrow that's going to be. I don't think that many people have players in that game, so hopefully it won't be too bad. So, as you may know, I'm trying to do things a little bit differently this season. Try have fun with the game, and if doing things differently means not getting points, then I'm certainly succeeding. Another kind of meh week for me, not the best, but could have been worse, certainly. So on there it's saying 36 points. It's actually with Trent coming off the bench, 44 points. So Trent actually doing something for a change and scoring a goal. That game was a bit boring, really. Or I thought it was. And the second time actually in 2 weeks that he's been on my bench, Trent, and he's returned. So uh, you know, he's so far been a colossal waste of money, but he did score, so that's great. And he's so Areola there has scored only a couple of points fewer than Trent so far this season. If you take all of the points, I think he's on like 42 and Trent's on like 46. It might even be like only 3 points in it, something like that. So it's been a waste of money so far, but he's got three great fixtures coming up. Um, three or two? Yeah, three. No, yeah, because Palace isn't that bad either. So three great fixtures for Trent coming up. So yeah, I think that experiment has failed so far, but I feel like I've kind of got to hang on to him. Areola has been allergic to clean sheets since I brought him in, but he's very cheap. Allows me to do other things with the team, and no real plans to swap him out for anyone else. I mean, I'd kind of maybe like a Sanchez when Chelsea's fixtures get a bit better. Still not totally convinced by Chelsea. Um, Obviously played well against City recently and then lost 4-1 to Newcastle. Newcastle, you know, Trippier is one of my favourite players, and he he's been a little bit frustrating at times. He's kind of either done very well or been a bit disappointing. That game got a yellow card and wasn't involved in any of the four goals. So a 1 pointer there for him. In fact, so many yellow cards this week for me. 5 yellow cards. If you take all those off, it would have been 49 points, which I think might have just about been a green arrow before the Fulham game. So I know it's something you kind of got to take into account of yellow cards, but it seemed to be getting quite a few in my team. Ferguson got one, Darwin, um, Watkins got one as well. So there must have been someone else. I'm trying to work out who it was. Was it Trent or Guahi? Yeah, Guahi, a little bit disappointing. Luton fixture, no clean sheet. Luton does not look an easy fixture at home. So something to bear in mind there. I think it's still one to probably target and maybe think more likely. I mean, they're not the best team, so but they certainly look a lot better at home. Saliba, who I brought in a few weeks ago, I'm really pleased with because he's managed to score points. Only Man U and Arsenal so far have got a clean sheet. I kind of laughed recently when people were bringing in Man United players, and who's laughing now because they've had several clean sheets recently, playing a lot better. If I was on Talksport, I'd probably be talking about them this massive improvement because if anyone's ever listened to Talksport or those kind of things, they kind of sensationalize everything, talking about I especially they do it so much with a lot of these teams. Chelsea's another one they do it with, but Man United's the biggest one, or the one they do it so much with, is it's either absolute disaster, the worst Man United team you've ever seen, or they're over the top amazing. Garnacho with that fantastic overhead kick, and you'll get people now claiming he's world class or whatever, and maybe not quite, but um, it's just there's just no middle ground. I mean, Man United have been disappointing so far this season, and they haven't played particularly well, and yet still they're still kind of there or thereabouts. They may get into Europe, into the Champions League by the end of the season, and they haven't played very well so far. But maybe Man United players, I shouldn't have been so quick to dismiss them. They've had some good fixtures, but um, they've have delivered so far. So Saliba, though, clean sheet, very good. I think he's the best. He's by far. If you had Gabriel, I think you'd be worried that he's not going to start. And any of the other ones as well. Ben White I quite like, but he must have been injured and he came on for like 1 minute. So that'd be disappointing if you had him to come on to do that. Martinelli so far has been disappointing for me, and I really wanted Saka, but when I was making the move to bring in the Arsenal attacker, it was when Saka was injured, and it looked like he probably wouldn't play, or there was enough risk there. So I went for Martinelli, and he hasn't done anything. He's a, you know, but then they have good fixtures. So do I just keep hold of him? I'm not sure. The I can't really easily get to Saka, which is a bit disappointing, because I think Saka is the one that I would want, the Arsenal player that I'd probably want. Not interested in Havertz. Trossard, if he's going to play every game, then he'd be the one I want, but he's too much of a rotation risk. So Salah got 5 points. Now my captain was going to be between either Son, Salah, and Watkins, so I ended up choosing the right one because I got 5 points from him. Salah would have been the same. Son only 2 points. That game between Villa and Spurs. Now I listened to it on the radio, and sometimes when you listen to games on the radio, they sound amazing. But let me know, was it actually that good to watch? It sounded brilliant, and it also sounded like Watkins could have had a hat trick. I'm not sure if that's true. I mean, he had one goal disallowed. He scored a goal. That was a good goal when I saw on the highlights. Son, I think, had 2 goals disallowed. Were there about 4 or 5 goals disallowed in that game? Sounded a good game. So I know Son's been disappointing last 3 fixtures. 3 blanks, 6 points. Very, very poor in those terms. But in this game, it sounded like he could have easily had more points. He could have scored goals. Disappointing if you captained him. But he's got City this week. A potential transfer out. But he's central in the middle of that team. They've got Kulusevski and Johnson, who are creative. Obviously, it's a big miss without Maddison. It is. And they've also got other injuries and in the defence and things. But I still think that Son is probably one of the better players to keep hold of. Going forward, I'm going to be trying to shoehorn Haaland back into the team somehow, because obviously it hasn't gone that great without him. I mean, he's ticked over with points and he's had 1 haul against Man United. So the real disappointment has been that the other players that I've brought in haven't really outscored him together. But the team to me looks okay, and I like that it's different than other people's. Bowen didn't play, and that's why I kind of thought he might not, and thought I might get Trent off the bench, and that's what happened there. So it wasn't, so that was fine, because no biggie there. That's got Trent's points, luckily for me, because that doesn't usually happen. Bowen, I need to kind of work out what's happening with him. If he's going to be out, if he's going to miss this game, it's an easy transfer out. I've got 2 free transfers, so we'll have a look at that in a sec. And Darwin Núñez, very disappointing, yellow card. I mean, he started the game, played like 80 odd minutes, and that's it. Watkins could have had more goals. Annoyingly, a yellow card. Ferguson started, can't ask for more than that, and scored. So, but he's kind of a minute's risk. What's going to happen going forward with him? So that's what happened. So going forward, I think the team looks okay, apart from the glaringly obvious that I don't have a Haaland and that I have Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think he's a good player to have in this week, playing Fulham at home. It looks a bit healthy on the home fixtures. Only, what's that? 3 players away, or 4 players away. So the bit more. Last week, everybody seemed to be playing at home, playing away. Sorry. Yeah, so let's run through the team. Areola in goal. Hopefully, he can get a clean sheet against Crystal Palace at home. I doubt it, but it's not. As I say, it's not really. I'm really, unless I've got like nothing to do, then I'm unlikely to make a goalkeeper change. I don't like rotating them anyway. And who would I get? I could get someone like Flecken maybe. I don't really trust Brentford's defence that much more than some of these other ones. West Ham's defence has been pretty poor, let's be honest. But Areola has come up with a few save points here and there, and he's dirt cheap. So what more do you want? Cash, good fixture. Well, it's Bournemouth away, so he's very attacking. Now the bit of a benching problem today, or this week. Do I mean, Trippier is the main one that I'm thinking. Maybe I need to squeeze Trippier in somehow, but who do I leave out? Cash, the fact I've still got him, I know a lot of people have transferred him out. Can understand why. Um, you know, Villa not really keeping many clean sheets or anything, but this fixture is pretty good, and I think Cash is going to play more often than not. So I think he's a decent enough player to just hold on to, really. And I'm probably not going to, because who do you bring in? Man United defender. Well, their fixtures are getting a little bit worse. Maybe an Arsenal defender, but who is guaranteed minutes? I think you'd have to probably go with Gabriel, maybe, or maybe Zinchenko, but he could be rotated. Ben White's a lot more expensive, or a Chelsea defender. Couple of now Chelsea are playing Man United at home, I think it is. But from game week 16, Chelsea's fixtures are a lot better. So I don't hate that, but as I say, I don't think he's priority to swap about, and I think that's a good fixture. Saliba plays Wolves. Trent, as I say, plays Fulham, so he's in the team, and he'll probably do nothing now he's not on the bench. The moment Martinelli playing Wolves at home, that's a pretty good fixture, home fixture. Salah, the captaincy is on him at the moment. Fulham at home. Son, Manchester City away. City, one of the hardest fixtures, that's probably the hardest fixture for any team. Man City away, but he, as I say, I think he played quite well against Villa. At least from it sounded like he did. Sounded like he was involved in everything and could have got goals. So could he get a goal against City? Yes, he could. Will he? Probably not, because he's in my team. But he's a potential transfer out. But it just depends what I want to do going forward with this team and how I want to squeeze Haaland in. He could be someone who goes out to make that happen. But the other way would be Salah out, which is less than ideal. But I think it leaves me more balance if I do it that way. Bowen, if Bowen plays against Crystal Palace at home, he's going nowhere. If we find out, it's a bit up in the air. It sounded like he could have played, so I think he will be fine. And if he is, then it's fine. If we find out that actually he won't play, then I think I'll transfer him out. And there are a few different ideas I've got on that I'll talk about in a sec. Ferguson against Chelsea away. He's playing well. He took his goal well. Got a yellow card, but did take his goal well. I could leave him out for Trippier. Love Trippier against Man United. Man United. Man United could score against anyone, but Trippier is, he's got that upside, hasn't he? He could get, if they do manage to get a clean sheet, he always seems to get bonus when that happens, and he's involved. He takes all the corners and the free kicks, or most of them. Watkins against Bournemouth away, the vice captaincy on him at the moment. He's playing well, I think. He's a great player. And Darwin against Fulham at home. The bench of Turner, Trippier, Guahi, and Chukwuemeka there. So, so what I'm thinking transfer wise is, possibly taking out Bowen if injured. If he isn't injured and he's going to be fine going forward, he's an easy hold. The team looks fine, really. Possibly look at replacement for Ferguson, but there isn't really any that I can do. There isn't anyone that really excites me at the moment apart from Haaland, and to get Haaland in would involve a few transfers that, unless I take Salah out, which I don't think I want to do this week. I think I'd prefer to have Salah over Haaland this week if I only have one of them. That's what it's going to be. So the other option would be maybe to take out Martinelli or Son. Son, this is basically, people seem to really be fed up with Son, and I can understand that. I think on a different day, though, he could have easily scored a couple of goals against Villa, maybe, and he could score against City. A hard fixture, yeah, but he's got some better fixtures going forward after that. I think Johnson and Kulusevski could still provide him with chances, and he can provide them with chances as well. I think he can get some decent points. So I don't really want to sell Son, but it's a possibility I could do, because I mean it's a difficult fixture this time, and then he's not quite as good without Madison. He just isn't. So the easiest thing will be if Bowen is injured and that we know about that, and then that will be an easy transfer. If that's the case, I'd be looking at Mbuemo. He's the no-brainer one that I think a lot of people would bring in this point, and he is a very good option on penalties. Having a great season, central to Brentford. Brentford have good fixtures going forward, and he's likely to play all the way across the Christmas fixtures. I would imagine he plays 90 minutes most of the time. Great option. Apart from the game week 18 game where City are playing in the Club World Cup, so that game won't be on. So it does mean that I have to cover him with someone. So whether that be a Ferguson or one of the defenders, or by that point maybe transfer him out, which I think will be popular because from game week 21 he will go to Africa, to AFCON in the Ivory Coast, and so he will miss at least game week 21, possibly up to game week 24, depending how well his country does. So he's a great one. This looks like a bit like knee jerk, really, but I was thinking about Morgan Gibbs White before, and his great fixtures on penalties, kind of really similar to Mbuemo, but in a slightly worse team, you would say, perhaps. And he's kind of central to their attack and everything getting forward. I don't know, maybe they're not quite as good without Iwanyi there. Maybe they have Chris Wood. So Chris Wood could be one that I could bring in for Ferguson if I wanted to. That's a possibility. I could go that route as well, but I'm not sure it really improves the team. So I'd rather, and also if I go at those other two for Martinelli or Bowen, it also gives me a bit more money going forward. I think ideally I'd like to save a transfer for the following week, so roll one and use one. That's what I'm looking to do if I can, but I may use both if I think that's a good idea, and it may be that I do both of those ones there. Morgan Gibbs White and Mbuemo in for, say, Bowen and Martinelli, or Bowen and Son, or Martinelli and Son. One of those. So just kind of like a brain dump at the moment, just kind of thinking up some ideas. Any other ideas that you think might be good, let me know. Chris Wood in for Ferguson, possibly. If I downgrade one of those midfielders, I could also maybe upgrade Ferguson to somebody else. Maybe an Alvarez. I know people are a bit frustrated with Alvarez, but if he's if he's going to get dropped, then that's obviously the wrong move to do. But At the moment, I mean, if he continues to play, then he's a cheap option into that attack for City. I think he's a great player as well, and I know he hasn't really scored like as many goals as people would have liked, but he hasn't done so badly. And then also, whatever I do, I've kind of got to bear in mind what that does for my route to Haaland. There are some different ways I can get Haaland back. The most simple one is Salah out, and that would be for another midfielder, and then depending which midfielder I could get rid of any of the attackers. So if I get rid of Ferguson, then I would need to go for a slightly cheaper attacker in that case. But if not, the other route would be Trent out and Son out. But I have to do one of those across the next 2 weeks, to so that I don't end up needing a -4 in game week 16, because that's always been the plan to bring Haaland back for then. I mean, the other option is that I don't do that. I'm starting to think maybe that could be a possibility that I don't bring Haaland back for that week, but I think that's unlikely. I think that's what I will probably do. So let me know what you think, and if you've got any better ideas. Yeah, and any kind of constructive criticism about the channel or anything, I'd also appreciate. So see you later, guys.